I'm Tobias Nagley, editor-in-chief at Air and Space Forces magazine, and I'm with Brigadier General retired Houston Cantwell. He's a senior resident fellow at the Mitchell Institute of Aerospace Studies. Houston, tell us your impressions of Secretary Meink gave his first kind of coming out speech in a sense as secretary this week. What did you hear? What was your takeaway?
Yeah, I thought it was really important. You know, we haven't heard a whole lot from Secretary Meink up until now. And he was very clear. Number one, he was very concerned about the sudden rise of China. He said that he's been tracking it, but he wanted to make sure that airmen and guardians understood that China is not a near peer. China is a peer threat, is what I took away from it. He didn't use those words, but we've got to prepare ourselves. And to prepare ourselves, he had two pillars. The first pillar was readiness. He said multiple times that he was surprised at how low the readiness rates were across the fleets, mainly in the Air Force. And then he also talked about the importance of modernization. And when we talk about modernization, what I took from that was we need to replace our old iron. As the Mitchell Institute says, as often as we can, the aircraft that we fly are older than they have ever been, and we must modernize those fleets so that our airmen can go out there and do the mission.
So there were a couple of other things, I think, sort of layers to that were interesting. One was when he talked about both readiness and modernization, he talked about sustainment, he talked about maintenance, he talked about parts.
Yeah.
He talked about weapons as well as aircraft. It was expansive.
Yeah.
Talk about kind of...
Yeah, it's expansive because it's such a complex situation. You can't just dump money on this problem and expect by the end of next year, oh, that's no longer a problem. Money is certainly a piece of this. We're going to have to find resources that allow us to buy additional parts, because parts is a critical component to fixing where we're at. But there's also a manpower component to this. We need aircraft maintainers that can maintain these aircraft at the rates that we need to maintain them at. There's a flying hour, there's a pilot shortage, there's a pilot absorption rate that needs to be fixed. And all these things interplay with one another, and fixing one of them is not going to fix the overall problem. We have to simultaneously get at all of these challenges, and then you could increase the overall readiness of our aircraft fleets.
Air superiority has been a significant topic this week.
Yeah.
It's, in a sense, I think air superiority had a coming out in the spring.
Yeah.
We began to hear more about that. I think General Alvin talked about
Certainly.
it, and then you had a panelist just this morning. Talk about what that conversation is like now, and what we're hearing that might shift people's understanding a little bit.
Yeah, I thought General Deptula did a fantastic job of bringing together some experts from Air Combat Command, from the headquarters. And then J.V. Venable brought up some excellent points about the relevance of air superiority, the importance that the United States Air Force has got to have the equipment and the skills and the training to go out and achieve air superiority. And if we cannot do that, then we will not be able to achieve the Joint Force Commander objectives. And that's played out on the battlefields around the world. When you look at what's going on in Ukraine, neither side has the ability to actually gain the air superiority that our Air Force doctrine says is so crucial to success. But we saw also over the skies of Iran, when Israel did the opposite of what's going on in Ukraine, they deliberately seized air superiority. In fact, many say they had air supremacy when we actually did the Midnight Hammer, where the aircraft flew from the United States, the B-2 aircraft flew from the United States, joined an additional 100 other aircraft, whether it was tanker, support, suppression of enemy air defenses, executed very precise strikes, got out, used that air supremacy and was able to accomplish the mission.
Okay. In the past, I think if you go back 20 years, the Air Force was very clear about the distinctions between air superiority and air supremacy.
Yeah.
And I would say that in the last few years, that's not been as clear. So very quickly, for anybody watching, define the difference.
Yeah, I would say air superiority is a temporal ability to be able to use the air as you need, whereas air supremacy is we have uncontested use of the air, of the entire air domain.
So that brings us one more really interesting point, and then I think we can wrap. But the question that is, we have enjoyed air supremacy against adversaries.
Yeah, for 20 years,
20
because
years.
we've been in a very low-tech adversary in Afghanistan and Iraq, where they were not contesting our ability to get air superiority. So therefore, we did not have to actually use any of our assets to maintain air superiority. All of our air assets were executing the close air support mission, and they did not have to actually allocate any assets to go do the air superiority mission. Now we're starting to see, look, we're not focused on the same adversary that we were before. We have a more advanced adversary now, whether it's the Russians or the Iranians, and their air forces have an ability to contest air superiority, and we have to be ready for that.
So some of the materials, some of the aircraft in the inventory are really not capable in that environment.
Right, right. Certainly some of our aircraft are not, but we have some aircraft that are tremendously capable at it, whether it's the F-22, our F-15EXs that are coming online, our F-16s, all carry advanced AIM-9Xs, AMRAAMs, which do amazing work against the advanced Chinese and Russian fourth and fifth generation fighters. We're starting to see challenges, though, when it comes to some of the lower tech one-way drones or the drones that are surveilling the battle space, generally flying at lower altitudes. These drones still can present a threat to the forces on the ground. And I found it really interesting that we had that panel from the Strike Eagle experts that participated in the air defense of Israel.
Yes.
And it was a very interesting story about how they used their Strike Eagle to counter that drone threat. They were in the right place. They had some advanced warning to put the Strike Eagles in the right place. And then they expertly used that Strike Eagle to down as many drones as possible. Now, I took two things away from that, Tobias. Number one, thank goodness we have highly skilled, trained aviators that are able to accomplish that mission. They also told a story about trying to, once they were out of weapons, trying to use a laser-guided bomb to take out some of these drones. And unfortunately, I applaud them for their ingenuity, but in the end, it did not work.
Right.
So the second thing I take from that is we've got to equip our airmen with the right tools to allow them to accomplish the mission. And our fourth and fifth gen fighters are currently not equipped to be able to counter some of these lower technology threats that are out there.
So General Alvin actually showed some video of a new capability in his talk, and I can't remember. I think it's Falco, and there's a whole designation, but rockets.
The APKWS.
You've got a much better memory than I do.
Yeah, those are amazing capability, and it helps bring down the cost per kill. Because an AMRAAM, roughly $1 million. When you're using an AMRAAM against a $25,000 drone, we're going to lose that cost curve very quickly.
Yeah. So I think what I took away from that is that we are actually innovating and iterating in some ways more quickly than we have in quite a while, because when the threat is there, then there's an immediate need.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Last takeaway, overall, this week, looking into a period of time where there's a lot of uncertainty, what should airmen, Air Force leaders be focused on over the next few months? They're going to walk away from a conference like this and think, okay, we're going into a new, we're going to finish this year. We got a budget cycle coming up. What would be key focus points?
Yeah, I walk away with, look, our airmen are doing tremendous work out there. They are getting at the mission every single day. They're as motivated as ever. They understand that there is a credible, viable threat that they have to be ready to counter on any day. When the balloon goes up, Tobias, it's the United States Air Force that gets called to strike the target around the world or to defend our nation at a moment's notice. Our airmen are ready for that task. But we also have to realize that we have significant challenges ahead, that we need support from Congress, we need the budgetary support to get at these challenges so that our airmen can continue to maintain what they can do and maintain that line of readiness to defend this nation. Without that support, they will not be able to accomplish the task.
Houston Cantwell, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Tobias.